Today I'm going to talk a little bit about hearing protection at the range. And the reason I'm doing this video today is that the last time I was at the range, ran into a couple of fellow shooters that were using some creative hearing protection. Instead of opting for the range-supplied earmuffs, they were using, one of them was using something like this, which is, these are like $2 or $3. These are very cheap and they're not very effective at protecting your hearing. And another one was using some really cheap yellow plugs like this that probably have an NRR rating of probably 16, 17, 18 dB, really not sufficient for an indoor shooting range. So I had a few discussions with these individuals about hearing protection. They noticed that I was wearing my Howard Light Impact Sport earmuffs. So that prompted a discussion that I ended up spending about a half hour with these guys explaining some of the concepts of hearing protection. So I figured I'd make a video about it and try and get some of this information out there for other people to reference when they're going to choose hearing protection for shooting. Now, an indoor range is going to be louder than outdoors. That's just a given fact. And depending upon who else is shooting in the range, what caliber guns are being shot, you're going to need at least one decent form of hearing protection, whether you choose in the ear plugs or you choose over the ear. And I'm going to discuss a little bit about the noise reduction ratings on hearing protection and some different options. I can't cover everything because it would just take hours and hours and hours. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to discuss a few things, and one of them would be the NRR rating for hearing protection. So if you're looking at earmuffs, earplugs, I've got several different pairs of earplugs here. You're going to see, if you're in the US that is, you'll probably see something that says NRR, and it'll say 18, 21, 22, 25, 30, so on. That more or less is going to tell you how that particular set of earplugs or earmuffs is rated for reducing noise. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't mean that 32 dB, well, in the case of, let's say this Heroes, this one's rated at 32 NRR right here. That doesn't mean that 32 is the actual dB noise reduction. And I'll get to that in a minute. The one thing that is important to remember is the higher the number, the more noise it filters out. So if you have your choice between these yellow things that reduce 19 to 21 dB, or these orange Howard Light Max plugs, which have a rating of, what are these? These are, I think these are 33. These are 33 or 30. They're 33. Go with the higher ones. Absolutely. Every single time, go with the higher ones. I also filtered a few questions about doubling up, wearing earplugs as well as earmuffs. And a few people I spoke with thought that, let's say these have a 25 NRR rating and these have 30. So they figured, oh, well, 25 and 30, you get 55 dB of noise reduction. Well, that's absolutely incorrect. And I'll discuss that as well. So you've got what I'm showing here is actually three different types of hearing protection. These solid foam plugs give you a flat noise reduction across the entire frequency range. These Howard Light Impact Sports, these are actually electronic earmuffs. And what these do is they amplify, they run on batteries, and they have a volume control, and they have built-in microphones. They actually amplify sounds around you up to 82 dB. So for example, if you were just sitting around your house and you put these on and turned them on, you'd hear a lot of sounds louder. But once the sound level exceeds 82 dB, these microphones actually shut off, and the noise reduction capability of these actually starts kicking in. Now, the logic behind this is that if you're at a range and you have a range master there or a trainer that's barking instructions, you can hear the instructions from the instructors while you're performing whatever training routine, firing or shooting behind barricades or whatever. You can hear supposedly you can hear the range master or whoever's giving the orders. Great idea, but it really only works efficiently if no one's shooting a firearm. Otherwise, the noise reduction of this, the amplification shuts on and off. So if you've got a range instructor trying to talk to you while somebody else is shooting a gun, the voices are going to cut in and out. So it is bothersome to some people, and that's kind of a drawback to this type of technology. It's obviously not foolproof, but it is still a great item to have while shooting at the range. Another option you can go for is something like, these are made by 3M. These are the Combat Arms earplugs. And these actually have a baffle inside of them. And these baffles act very similar to how these earmuffs do, except they're not electronic. So you can flip a little tab here and open up the baffle or close the baffle. And this also allows you to hear sounds at a lower dB level, but once gunfire starts, then the baffle shuts and filters out the higher level noise. So these are also nice items. So with that said, let me talk about the NRR rating. The NRR rating, Google it. That's all I can tell you if you want to know the history behind it. But it's actually a rating mechanism for hearing protection. And it's if you see something that says 32 NRR, that doesn't mean 32 dB across the board. And what I did was I actually printed out this. This is actually available off the internet. We're just going to look at this top section right here. If you Google Combat Arms, the 3M Combat Arms, you can get this information off of their website in a PDF form. And this kind of shows you how the well, actually, we're going to look at both of these because one chart shows the Combat Arms with the baffle open, and the other one shows it with the baffle closed. And you can see this bottom one is the baffle closed chart, and we'll just use this for an example. At these frequencies, this is the sound reduction level. So you can see that even though these Combat Arms have an NRR rating of 23, you can see at some of these frequencies, for example, at 1,000 hertz, you've got 31.9 dB of reduction. So this is actually an average number that they come up with to rate the hearing protection. This type of information is very helpful if you're a shooter. The majority of the frequencies that you're going to hear at the range is 500 hertz and 1,000 hertz. So you can see right here at 500 you have 32.2, and at 1,000 you have 31.9. So these are very efficient at the frequency range that most gunfire happens at. So if you're going to explore over-the-ear earmuffs or earplugs, if you can get access to a chart like this that shows you the frequency ranges at 500 and 1000 and what the dB reduction is, that will be very helpful to you to choose an effective pair of earplugs or earmuffs to use while shooting. Now, finding the information on what frequency rifles are and bullets is not an easy task. You have to really dig into charts and materials used for actually building shooting ranges. So if you want to do research on your own, you might want to look in that area to come up with frequency data, and that's more or less where I got it from. So this type of chart information is very good, and I utilize it. Now, going back to what I mentioned about doubling up, it's okay. The easiest way for me to explain that is, let's say these are rated at 22 dB NRR. These are rated at 33 NRR. So if I use these together, my effective dB noise reduction rating would be 37. So you basically take the higher number of the two and add 5 dB to it, and that's what you get. And that's also information that's all over the internet. And another question that I've been asked is, wow, 5 dB isn't very much. Well, technically it is a lot. Let's use a number of 3 dB of sound. To increase from 3 dB to 6 dB, you have to double the sound level. So to go from 3 to 6 to 9 to 12, you're doubling each time. That's the simplest way to explain it. So it takes a lot of energy to increase sound by 3 dB. So by doubling up and getting 5 dB extra of protection, very smart thing to do. So I highly recommend doing this in the range, indoors, for extra protection. Outdoors, you've got a wider area, and you don't get as much concussion effect outside, and you can get away with just these, for example, or just these by themselves. But indoors, I always double up. And to be honest with you, when I'm indoors and I'm doubling up, I'll use these combat arms, and I'll run them in the open setting, the baffle's open, and I run these. And if there's no gunfire going on, I can hear normal conversation going on around me just absolutely fine, because these are actually electronically amplified, and these aren't providing much sound reduction in the baffle open setting. So you can hear conversation going on really well, but once gunfire starts, the baffles close on these and the electronic amplification shut off on these. So even though these have by themselves have an NRR rating of 22 and these have a rating of 23, together I end up with about 28. A little bit less than, say, these by themselves, but you know, pretty close. So that's my compromise, and that's what I run. Let's see. So that's the important information that I wanted to discuss. The other thing I wanted to discuss is the use of hearing protection for other purposes. If you're like me, I'm always building something. I'm using power tools all the time. When I'm in my garage and I'm working, I'm not really necessarily using these, and I'm not really using these. These aren't useful for me in the garage. I could use them in a pinch, but I end up using these higher NRR rated foam plugs, either the Heroes over here or the Howard Light Maxes when I'm using power tools. If I'm at the track, we've got race cars going on, there's always a pair of these foam plugs somewhere. I either have them on me in my EDC pack, in my car, or something. Anywhere where there's loud noises, tools. Rock concerts, I got introduced to earplugs a long time ago at rock concerts because it's extremely loud at rock concerts. These are absolutely a must. So anywhere where there's loud noise, I have earplugs. Now, one of the other things I wanted to talk about at the range is I see this quite a bit, and actually let me grab something to use as an example. Grab some glasses. The problem with a lot of over-the-ear protection is that once you go to put on your glasses, the glasses have a tendency of pushing out on this depending upon how you wear them. And if these are not absolutely tight over your ears, they're not doing their job. So if you put your eye protection on and it kind of pushes on these and it creates an air gap between this cushion and your head, then you're losing effectiveness. And I've seen a lot of people wearing over-the-ear protection and glasses and creating air gaps like that. So that's another thing that I mentioned. When I wear mine, I actually tilt mine up so these arms don't actually interfere with the seal around my ears. Again, if if you're not getting a tight seal, then they're not doing their job. So it's something else to keep in mind. I believe that's. I wasn't going to discuss too much about other non-shooting uses. Let's see. I'll just close this video with if you need to wear earplugs for sleeping, if your significant other is noisy at night, you may be wearing earplugs, or maybe you work the day shift and you you work the night shift and you sleep during the day and there's noise, people mowing and things like that. Earplugs like this, with these hard ends on them and these rubberized deals, these are not extremely comfortable to wear for long periods of time. And also, if you're sleeping with something like this, if you lay down on your side with your head on your pillow and push down on this, these things can push into your ear further and jab into your eardrum. Not very comfortable. I found that plugs like these are not comfortable for sleeping. And they don't block out enough noise for sleeping either. So motorcycles and lawnmowers and things like that can definitely wake you up. I'm going to close this video with these Heroes plugs. You can see this little POP package right here. These have an extremely high NRR rating. They're extremely soft. I think this is like $5 for this package. You get a little carrying case and you get 8 pairs of these plugs. These are excellent for use in the garage with power tools, at the racetrack, concerts, sleeping. With 8 pairs, you can have a pair of these just about everywhere you need to have them. And on the back, most earplugs, most quality earplugs will have something like this. They'll actually have a chart listing the amount of dB reduction at the different frequencies, just like the larger piece of paper I showed you. And if you can see this, 500 hertz is 43.2 and 1000 hertz is 41.8. These are my absolute favorite standalone foam earplugs for shooting. If I'm not concerned about hearing people talking around me. These are extremely comfortable. I can wear these all day, as long as somebody's not shooting a 50 caliber next to me or something. These work pretty damn good. And on the level of comfort, over the ears, this may not apply to most people, but it does to me, because I've got like gigantic elephant Dumbo ears. Having something like this over my ear for a long period of time bothers my ears. These are actually kind of low profile, and you can get larger ones and so on. But my problem is my ear is to fit in this opening here. You got to kind of compress my ear to get it in there. So after a while, these become uncomfortable. So with the range, I can wear these for a certain period of time before my ears start to not want to deal with these anymore. So I end up having to take them off. And when I do take them off and switch to a foam earplug, I switch to these Heroes if I'm going to run a standalone foam earplug. These just work really good. So if you're shooting 5.56, 9mm, 45, you can do pretty good with these foam ones. It's very good noise reduction with these foam ones. So I'm going to wrap up this video about hearing protection, and hopefully it gives you something to think about while when you're choosing hearing protection for use at the range.